All right, folks, stay tuned. We'll be starting in just a minute with Rav Mike Feuer and myself, getting ready for Rosh HaShana. I'm just going to wait for everybody to join up. Enjoy this amazing video in the meantime. Rav Mike, look at that video.
Beautiful. I think, by the way, you know that we're live.
I know we're live. This is the pre-live moment.
Right, but I mean, you and I are actually there. We're there
yes.
with people.
I could turn us off, but I'd like to show people that we're really there.
We're actually there with real people.
That's right. That's right. This is the pre-live part. This is like the
Did you notice the social distancing there?
This movie was posted like 3 years ago.
Well, it was prophetic.
That's right. Oh, look at that. You're right. Look at that. They are really socially distanced.
It's interesting, huh? No one's wearing a mask, though.
Yeah, but look how beautiful it is. Great job. All right, I see people are joining up, so we'll be starting in just another 10 seconds. There's the Beit HaMikdash in Yerushalayim with its face east towards the Mount of Olives. Amazing, beautiful. All right, we have a lot of folks joining up. Rav Mike and Haya
Awesome.
saying hello. I'm going to pause our video here. All right, folks, you are listening to the Yishai Fleischer Show, broadcasting really, really live from Judea and Jerusalem at the same time to the world. That's right. To the world, you're a part of it wherever you are. And this is the pre-Rosh HaShana show, which means the pre-New Year show. And I want to disabuse you of... what was that?
Sorry, that was this week.
Oh, my gosh. I want to disabuse you of one notion, everybody, which is that Rosh Hashanah is not the Jewish New Year. That's a incorrect phraseology. It's not the Jewish New Year. It's the New Year.
Kol Bayim Arom.
That's right. It's the New Year, and we're all part of it. And I just want to tell you, Rav Mike, already people are saying hello from Germany, saying hello. And Simon Zelkin is saying good morning from Johannesburg, South Africa. Hello, Simon. Hello, our friends from Germany. So people are really talking from all over the world already. And that's exactly right, because this is just like you said, Rav Mike Feuer, we're talking about a holiday that is for everybody, Jews and non-Jews alike. This is the day. I mean, of course, you have to be a believer, right? You got to believe that the God of Israel is the God of all people. By the way, I want to tell you, Rav Mike.
That's true. I think you're probably getting in the New Year judgment whether you believe that or not. It just
that's right. Well. That's right. I want to tell you, I have been enjoying, and probably more than most people, I've been enjoying your Heralds of Zion series. I have a feeling that I enjoy it more than a lot of people because it's right up my alley on so many levels. You got a lot of
background there, and it's on a passionate connection.
Yeah, and it's just so many interesting things. And one of the things that you said on the show, which I thought was like a total eye opener to me, it's about Abraham. I read this in a different book that it says, I'm trying to remember which book, it says the first time that we meet Abraham, the first words that we meet about Abraham in the same verses go to the land of Israel.
Yep.
So the land of Israel and Abraham are totally connected. Now I remember where it was in the Chalban. Totally connected things. But what you said on your show about Abraham is that Abraham, on the one hand, he represents the founder of the Jews. He's the first Jew. And at the same time, his very name means father of many nations, Av Hamon Goim. So there's a tension between the universalist and the particularist in that. And that's, I think, Rosh HaShana is another great example of that, where you have a new year, which is known as the Jewish New Year, but it is, and the Jews get together in prayer and they do their thing. And maybe the rest of the world is not commanded to do so, but at the same time, the world is being judged on this day, and I think it would behoove all of our friends around the world to feel the importance of Rosh Hashanah and take an extra, maybe like a new time is being awakened right now, where the non-Jews of this world, the lovers of Israel, are saying, "Hey, this is Rosh Hashanah. We got to do something also in order to tip the balance of this world for good." What do you think about that?
Yeah, in many ways, you're correct. Rosh Hashanah and all Chag Tishrei, all these the holidays of this month, represent that tension between the particular and the universal, because in many ways we were given these days in trust. We give them in trust. Like you said, we know we have a calendar, we have the commandments of the Torah, we have a long tradition of how we access them, but they're not just about us, it's about the world. And that opens up not only an opportunity, but a responsibility for us to really to teach in the right way what these days can be. And the primary way to do that is by example, is by really accessing the transformative potential of these days and becoming the people that we're really meant to be. Once we do that, we will have an argument to be made that this is something that the whole world really could benefit from, right? We're not the proselytizing religion that gets out there and tries to teach the world sort of in an activist sense about the truth as we understand it. We're more of the classic light to the nations, which is like, let's actually go deep into our particular tradition and allow it, do the work and allow it to make us who we could be. And then the world will see that there's a God, and that this God doesn't just exist in the abstract, but has given us a Torah, and that Torah has the power to really unleash the potential which was built into creation from the beginning. So, I mean, yes, it's about us and our practices and our tradition and the Torah which is given to us, but really it's for the sake of all creation. That's why that phrase that I quoted before, Kol B'nai Marom, that all the sort of creatures, all the works of creation pass before God. And God's like a shepherd saying, yeah, this one, that's one, that no one goes unnoticed, which is beautiful and terrifying, which is another one of the tensions of this day.
Right. And within what you just said about, there's also the tension between individualism and corporatism or collectivism.
Yeah.
And we're being judged individually. And yet it's not just like about like, are you going to be healthy, get the money and be able to raise your kids well? It's really about a global, is the world going to be judged favorably? And let's just pause for a second. I felt kind of harried today, so I jumped into the show kind of harried. And the reason I'm harried is because it's been very tumultuous days in the last few days. First is that we had yesterday at our house a kind of celebratory meal. It was my mother-in-law's Leah Bat Fega and Mordechai's, my mother-in-law's yortzeit. And for my mother-in-law's yortzeit, there was also the Abraham Accords live on TV. So we ordered, and she was a big pro-Israel activist, so we ordered, this is very rare, we ordered burger bar for the whole family, the 5-burger combo. Okay, so we had the 5-burger combo with 5 sides things, including an onion rings, which was delicious. And we, me and the kids and Malka, we watched the Abraham Accords live from Washington D.C. And that was, how should I say? It was definitely. I was so happy that it was a great moment for the kids to watch, and I thought it was a great moment for the Jewish people, for Israel. I actually think I think that the Jews celebrated it more, but the real beneficiaries were the Arabs.
That's. I mean, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this whole situation, and that kind of touches on part of it, which is this is beautiful. Like, there's nothing essentially bad about like countries finally making peace is a little bit of a stretch, since to say that we were in a state of war is a little exaggeration. But crossing the great divide, that's what I see to be the great benefit. Is like, emperor has no clothes. We're not going to let this ridiculous counter narrative to Am Yisrael prevent us from the obvious benefits. That's what drives me. The obvious benefits of linking up our future with the Jews, because when you look around the region in the 100-year war we've been fighting, we may occasionally have been on the ropes, but we are winning, people. Like, it's just not a question. If you look at the arc of it, in the Arab world, sadly, is in a mess in many places. And even places like in the Gulf, where materially their society is succeeding, that's that's a success that needs to be cultivated and husbanded, because the fact that they're sitting on the largest lake of oil on the planet won't last forever in any number of ways. So I have like mixed feelings. It's more like, thank you very much. like we were at war with you, and now you recognize us. At the same time, I'm trying not to be the Grinch, because it's fundamentally a good thing. And what's really interesting is how far will this old world crumble, right? Meaning, how much is this just like testing the waters, and then a good chunk of the rest of the Arab world is going to say, okay, listen, it's true, we want the Palestinians to have a good life, but we're not going to let them dictate our foreign policy or national interests any longer. And something I've seen you speaking about and a lot of other people's it's also, I mean, in terms of the Rosh Hashanah, people are lining up. Who wants to be in the book of life? Who wants to be in the book of death? It's just like, I don't, on some level, it's fairly obvious that you see a bunch of nominally pro-peace activists protesting this situation because it doesn't fit their narrative and it doesn't serve their personal interests, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, oh, I get it. You're just out for yourself, just like everybody else. Fine, now we can treat you that way. There's a lot of illusions that are falling, and I think that's why it's essentially good. Although I have to admit, it's like a little bit of a grr around, like we're at war with you, like this is some great accomplishment that you finally accepted the reality.
When you're in a fight with somebody, sometimes you deal with somebody who's in an irrational posture.
Yes.
But when that person is able to get their hands on themselves, put themselves in control, and to come down from the tree and overcome that hate and that tension, that anger, that simmering thing, that in itself is a big accomplishment. And I think that for the Arab world, this was the kind of opposite of Amalek, the cooling off of the hate. It's like somebody had to step in, put the toes into that water and say, and very interesting. Here's a fascinating one. You just touched on it, which is they're now using the word sovereignty, which was a hot word here. They're using the word sovereignty in a different way, which is what you just said, which is they're saying the Emiratis, we're a sovereign nation. We want to make a relationship with another sovereign nation. We're not going to let the Palestinian issue be this thing that stops us from acting as though we've outsourced our foreign policy to you. Yeah. We're sovereign and like, okay, so you got a problem with the Israelis. Well, whoop-de-doo. That doesn't make it an Arab problem. We have other issues.
For sure, it's the biggest piece. Hang on 1 second, because I'm watching my battery descend even as we speak.
No worries. You plug in. In the meantime, we're about to come into Rosh HaShana now. So one of the, as Rav Mike Feuer plugs in. There he is. Plug in. Okay. As he's plugging in. That's right. You're feeling empowered. So just as we are facing this good new reality for a new year, which was the Abraham Accords, and such a beautiful and apt name. I love that name so much. But at the same time, and everybody knows this, the great irony was there was Netanyahu. Now, Netanyahu, when things are going well for him, he's got this face on of being giddy. He's just giddy. You can just see he's just plain giddy. There's something about him. You know what? I actually respect that. I respect that it shines through that he thinks this is a great moment and a personal achievement for him and an achievement for the state of Israel. And he was just giddy.
That's an important point there, is that personal achievement, which, I've said some tough things about our prime minister on this show. So, credit where credit is due, is that this is the fulfillment of a posture that he has been pursuing for decades, which is that
that's right.
You make peace through strength. You don't make peace through concessions. Not in this region, at least. Maybe elsewhere, but probably not. But yeah, you just make it so desirable to join us that it overwhelms all the other issues. Yeah, so got to give a man credit.
I give him the credit, but at the same time, as he was sitting there in the dais, by the way, a marvelously cool day in Washington. A lot of people mentioned that to me, that it was in the low 70s in September, middle September in Washington. That's not a simple thing, because it's usually in the 90s and muggy. But in any case, it was a beautiful day. There was the what many in the Jewish sphere got excited about is the mincha afternoon prayer that took place on the South Lawn there, and there was a lot of people joining that prayer.
It was cool.
It was cool, and a lot of people also said, let us have such a prayer on the Temple Mount of Jews praying. You saw Jews praying in front of this beautiful building. If you wanted to, you could transpose that to seeing Jews praying in front of the Temple Mount, in front of the temple. But, and this is the other side of that coin, while Netanyahu was giddy yesterday on the one hand, that he was on a plane that very same night to go back to the Holy Land, to Eretz Yisrael, to the land of Israel, state of Israel, to face a very angry populace because of this COVID that is seemingly running amok.
5,500 cases in the last 24 hours.
Right. And
we're
closures.
At this point at the curve.
Right. And with a looming closure for the high holiday season.
Yeah.
One of the biggest economic seasons, one of the biggest spiritual seasons. And so and I want to tell you, Rav Micah, I was not so far away from where you are right now at the Pardes Institute. I was in Talpiot in Jerusalem, and I was speaking to shop owners, and there's no way to deny it. They are PO'd. I mean, they are PO'd.
Yeah, there's rage. It's a rage. And it's justified, I have to say, because all summer long we were poo-pooing this situation. The cops weren't enforcing the rules. People were out and about as if nothing were wrong. The government was watching the numbers. It's math, people. It's math. And then all of a sudden, right before Rosh HaShana, he's going to slam it down. Again, I'm not people say, well, what should they do? I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But the reality is it's a bitter pill. I cannot deny it. Yeah. Although I do have to say there's a tremendous spiritual opportunity. I think a lot about Shimshon Raphael Hirsch has a famous statement in one of his writings, which has gotten in the world in which I live, has gotten a lot of attention in the last 6 months. He was struggling with the birth of the Reform movement in Germany. Are you familiar with what I'm speaking about? And a lot of the struggle in Germany, because of the nature of the political position of Judaism as an official religion, was around who controlled the shuls. Right, and that was like this sort of field of battle. So he famously said that if he could just shut the doors of every shul in Germany for 100 years and force Judaism back into the home, which is its sort of natural, rooted environment, all these questions would work themselves out. But his sense was, and now I'm extrapolating, is that the politics and the public nature and the money and power was really poisoning the interaction amongst Jews. So there's an opportunity in being forced back into our homes at this, which is really the height of the spiritual season, to try to really root ourselves in wait a minute. What am I doing? What is the nature of my relationship to God, to humanity, to my family? Aside from, I don't want to say going through the motions in a dismissive way, but aside from doing the thing, even in a deep, profound way, together with everyone else, now it's me and God. And yeah, please God, we'll get to hear the shofar, and of course the code is always at home. But there's an incredible opportunity to strip away everything which is not a genuine expression of our relationship with God, and to build from there. And like it or not, we're not even being offered, we're being given this opportunity. So might as well take up the gauntlet.
So Simon Zelkin writes, maybe this is a message from Hashem, testing our resilience at such tough times, the most poignant time of the year, seeing how we deal with it. So I think that...
Yeah. I mean, the message is tough because the message already forces me to want to say what's the content. The word that speaks to me is it's an invitation. It's an invitation. And that way, I can do with it as I will. I mean, I don't think we're really saying Simon, but there's no question that, everything. This was just kind of a little bit obvious.
So for me, last year I was in Yerushalayim in Jerusalem. By the way, we're getting a little pixelation on you right now, so I don't know if you're in a bad connectivity for a second. So, Rav Mike, if you have a chance to strengthen that, you're getting Max Headroom-ish a little bit. In any case, last year for me was one of the highest Rosh Hashanahs of my life because I was in the Mount of Olives, and both mornings of Rosh Hashanah I went up to the Temple Mount, and there on the Temple Mount there were young Jews who are not allowed to carry any kind of prayer book up to the Temple Mount. They prayed the whole Rosh Hashanah prayer up on the Temple Mount. I'm talking about everything from memory, including the special prayers of Rosh Hashanah, and then the Torah reading and the Haftorah reading all by heart.
Wow.
I could not believe it. And and to remind people, the first day's Torah reading is about the conception of and then the birth of Isaac, while the second day is about the binding, and the binding which took place on the Temple Mount.
You were on location.
Right. I was on location listening to a reading about, now for me, this happens like on Parshat Chayei Sarah, when we read about Abraham's purchase of the tomb of the patriarchs and matriarchs, the Machpelah. That's amazing. But like to be on the Temple Mount on Rosh HaShana in the morning and to hear the binding of Isaac, where it happened right there, I mean that is a mind blowing experience. This year, right? But this year I cannot go to Yerushalayim. It's like locked out a little bit, and so therefore it's really not not the same. And so I'm being, in your language, Rev Mike Feuer, I'm being invited in for a different kind of experience, but there's a part of me that's a little bit concerned. Will I be able to hit that high? Will I be able to find that place?
It's an important question, and it opens up like a larger discussion. I don't know how far we want to go with it, into what spiritual practice really looks like. That one of the great challenges of intense spiritual experiences is that they overshadow the sort of more subtle texture of the spiritual life. Like you have these sort of high moments in there, and they can be transformative and illuminating, but often they rob us of the ability to access what's available to us in a daily basis and an annual basis, and we end up with judgments and feelings of failure, etc. Like it happens for me sometimes around Yom Kippur. I've had certain Yom Kippur that I come back to the house and I'm like dancing with the kids and like I don't even need to eat, and Shamayim. And others, it's like I made it. Okay, I made it. I wasn't so focused, and but the reality is that all of these things are opportunities to meet God. Right? There's a thing that I used to say to us is, don't wait to do the work. Don't wait to do the work. Don't wait for them to break down a relationship. Don't wait for the crisis in your life. You can always do the work. The question is that can we sensitize ourselves to the texture of spiritual experience? Because I'll give you an example. Your discussions with those shopkeepers, has a tremendous opportunity to give them support, nechama, not because you're able to help them, because you care and because you're listening. And I had a conversation with somebody. I ordered some coffee from the Power Coffee Works. By the way, if you're in Jerusalem or in Israel at all, and you want the best coffee in all Jerusalem, you got to get it from Power Coffee Works in the Shuk. They're delivering. They will grind. They will ship it right to your door everywhere in Israel. And who could get it through the Chagim under lockdown without coffee? Anyway, just a plug. I was speaking to the proprietor, and we talked for 10, 15 minutes. I was checking up on my order, and he said, "You know what? It's so good to have a human conversation." It broke my heart. It broke my heart. How many people are saying that right now? And we miss the opportunities.
Rav Mike, if I can ask you to take a second and maybe try to reconnect, maybe restart your Wi-Fi or whatever it is, and I'll stall in the meantime for a second while you find reconnectivity to us, because I'm having pixelation from you, and also other people are saying to me that they're having a hard time hearing you. So if you could take a second, and we'll bring you right back in. That would be great if you could use that link again that you were on before. And what Rav Mike Feuer is really telling us a very powerful thing, which is that people need human connections right now. That's a very true statement, and I hope that we're having a human connection here through this medium as well. I hope that you are feeling that myself and Rav Mike and Malka and the team here are trying to bring you a real sense of that we are together, and that we're sending you some kind of rays and blessings from the land of Israel. Let's see if we get Rav Mike back here. And we lost him. We'll try to get him back in a second. But yeah, can I just tell you something though, guys? Being on the Temple Mount and looking at the place of the temple and remembering what Abraham, how he almost sacrificed his son Isaac, was an incredible moment. Yes, I see you, Rav Mike. You're back.
Did that help?
Yeah. Oh, you bet it helped. Yeah.
I feel better.
You see, it's a lesson for us that sometimes I heard this quote, like 98% of machines will be fine if you give them a restart, right? It's like,
and people as well, by the way.
right. That's what I'm saying. So that's exactly what you were saying. Like there's an invitation. There's some kind of, the Hebrew word is itchul, like you latchil me'atchala, like to start again. It's a restart, itchul. So that's what you needed just now. So you're back. So you were talking about the folks at Power Coffee Works sporting that steampunk theme, and they do make good coffee. They're in the shuk there, and you're saying that the guy there was like, it's so good to have a human conversation.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the business owners in Israel today, especially those who are immigrants, are really struggling, not just with the economics, but bureaucally. So he's saying, he's like, I just don't, I can be in contact with the area, with the police, and every day it's something new. And I actually do believe that everyone means well. I'm not a conspiracy theorist in the sense that I think that like people are out to get like the little guy, etc. There's always, Rishaim in the mix, but I don't think that that's what's happening overall. But there is something inhuman about the large scale approach. We're dealing with a large scale problem, but there's something inhuman about it. And so the only way that people like you and I can overcome that is being more human. Mm-hmm. Being more human in the sense of being created in the divine and caring and knowing that, that the most pure act of chesed, of loving kindness you can do is to give your time and attention to someone. Never forget that. It's something that you can always do, which is the highest form of chesed. Giving your time and attention to someone who needs it. So
now I want to go back to the Abraham Accords for just a second and ask you something that I truly don't know the answer to and bothers me every year. But because it happens on Rosh HaShana, I never remember to ask it later on, but I remembered it today, which is there is an inordinate amount of Ishmael in the readings, Hagar and Ishmael.
Yes.
And with respect, I would have maybe not, included that whole segment in. And I'm always like, why am I reading so much about Hagar and Ishmael on Rosh Hashanah? It's like, are they, to use modern language, are they the other that I'm supposed to be concerned about? Is it about Abraham's heart and what's important to him? It's clear that the message is Isaac is born after many prayers. The prayer is received on Rosh Hashanah. He's born on or conceived of Rosh Hashanah. God hears the prayers on Rosh Hashanah. Isaac is born, and then he's going to survive the binding, and he's the next Jew. Why do you is it like, remember that show? Remember that movie Twins? Is that what this is about? Like, there's remember with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito? Yeah. It's like, why are you telling me that there's this other Ishmael story? And the Ishmael story, it's important to state, if people don't know what I'm talking about, the Ishmael story is about the pain that Abraham feels about, what's that?
It's not pretty.
Right, it's not so pretty, and it's also what I wanted to say is it's clear that G-D, God himself, is involved and concerned with the survival of Ishmael. Yeah. Okay? And Hagar says, hey, what do you know what I mean? What, am I not a follower of the of Abraham and his God? Of course I am. So there's a lot of that in Rosh Hashanah, and it always throws me off. Why did the Masoretes include this reading on Rosh Hashanah, do you think?
So I think you already named a couple of reasons that, to go back to your original point about the tension in Rosh Hashanah between the particular and the universal, I think it's important to remember that Hagar represents that side of Abraham. Hagar and Ishmael represent that universal side, even though in the end of the day, we're pursuing our story, and our story is a central story to the whole creation. Nevertheless, it doesn't exist on its own. I think that's one piece which is important to remember. Number two, Ishmael represents a certain aspect of judgment. When God says, Ba'asher hu sham, that God sees him where he's at, that is the definition of judgment. One of the important things to remember in this season is the difference between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is Rosh Hashanah is about the snapshot of your life. Just show it to me. What have you actually done? Don't tell me about what came before, what came after, no extenuating circumstances or contingencies. That's the mercy of Yom Kippur. And so the harshness of the judgment, which comes with, well, Yitzchak is the future, and therefore Yishmael is out, right? And he's nevertheless judged for life. So there's a complexity in that deserves reflection in ourselves. And I would say last but certainly not least, one also has to recognize that every judgment is a cutting. Right? If I say this is right, that it implies that that's wrong. If I say I'm going this way, that means that not that way. Choices exclude, judgments cut, right? And that it's going to require healing. And it's not for naught that whether you think that the Arabs of today are actually the descendants of Ishmael or whether conceptually it doesn't really matter. Look at the Abraham Accords. I think expresses it perfectly. That's how we relate to each other. And it's not for naught that healing has begun to come. And let's remember, by the way, that healing will precede our problem with Esau. We have the tendency to think that like it's all hunky-dory because there's somebody in the White House who's backing our horse right now. But Alu Moshim B'Hartzion the support of Esau, right? That the Redeemers are going to go stand up on Mount Zion to judge Esau because that's where the real break is going to lie.
It's funny you say that because I think that, I'm not so into the various conspiracy theories, and I'm not so into the various, Gog and Magog type thinkers or Messianic type thinkers. That's just not my thing. But I think that I always laugh that Esav in the Torah is called Edom. He's called red. And then he later on becomes the representative of Greece and of Rome especially. There has never been a redder person than President Donald Trump. He is the reddest red person
himself.
He really, it's like this, and he wears these red ties.
Yeah.
He's the reddest red person I've ever seen. Like his whole complexion and everything about him just says red to me. Now I'm colorblind, so I like certain colors, and red, by the way, is the one color I don't see so well. That's the nodes that
red, green,
right, right. So, but like that guy's red. You know what I mean? I can see that. And
I'll never look at him the same again.
Right, and to see this like this shall we say Esavian descendant, being clearly warm to Israel, warm to Prime Minister Netanyahu. Like you can make fun of President Trump as much as you want, but at the end of the day, he is the leader of America, which is.
Yeah, I'm not into making fun of leaders. I'm into criticizing. I'm into disagreeing with. I think that this make fun of leaders, the mockery.
Right.
People don't understand. You're undermining leadership itself when you do
right,
that. And that's dangerous. We're suffering from that right now.
Yeah.
This sense that it's just okay to mock your leaders and to burn them in effigy or to show pictures of them in inappropriate ways. Folks, you're not going to be happy with the world you end up in when you undermine leadership itself.
Well, let me just go back to what you said a minute ago about judgment being a cutting. One of the names of Rosh HaShana is the day of cutting, Yom HaNesirah, which is it's where Adam and Chava, according to one version, were a fused creature.
Back to back.
Back to back. And then God kind of split them up.
Yeah.
Which is on the one hand great because now you could face each other. But on the other hand, it also means that you're no longer conjoined, and therefore you're always apart. Even when you come together, it's for a short amount of time. And so there's an element of that, and that also harkens back to Ishmael and Isaac, who were grew up together, but had to be separated for their own goods, but then came together to bury their joint father Abraham in Hebron. And so like there's something about like Rosh Hashanah, which is judgment, which cuts apart, which judges good and bad, which separates us. But at the same time, is there also a place where we get to face each other and come together on this day like we weren't able to before?
I would say that's Yom Kippur. I mean, you have to remember that the dynamic which is happening is one process. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and we might even really say Sukkot. I mean, but there's a process of Nesira and Dveikut is what you're speaking about. Is that the separateness allows for, as you
cleaving.
said, a face-to-face relationship, which is a chosen cleaving. Which is why, if you look in the text of Genesis, that it says after the splitting of Adam and Chava into two people, or in the splitting of his side off in the text, that It says, "Al ken yazov ish et aviv v'imo," that's why a man leaves his father and mother, v'davak l'ishto v'hayu l'basar echad, and cleaves to his wife, and they become one flesh. So just think that's exactly it's what it's described. Is they were one flesh, they're split apart, they become one flesh, but in a much more profound sense, because they can't stay that way.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, you have to constantly choose. You have to constantly choose. And this is the nature of the relationship which God is offering us. Wake up, recognize what you've done right and what you've done wrong, and choose life again. Choose life again. And then there's a healing that comes through Yom Kippur and Sukkot, and the intimacy returns and a sense of security. But there's a lot of ema v'yira, a lot of trembling and fear around Rosh Hashanah that you have to look your life in the face. You have to be willing to say, this is what I am. It may not be what I want to be, but I have to accept that this is what I am, and I got here because of what I did. And it is a time of radical responsibility. Interesting enough that on Yom Kippur it's the opposite. It's a time of putting our responsibility on God. It's like, look, God, right here I am. I'm like an angel. If I didn't have to eat and I didn't have to sleep and I didn't engage in all the physical, intimate relations, et cetera, I just wore white and stood in shul all day. Look, I'm perfect, but you made me the way you made me. So like on Rosh Hashanah, I own it, but on Yom Kippur, you.
That's very interesting. That's a very interesting thought. Rosh Hashanah has awe, but it also has celebration. Yeah. Because it's on the one hand, it's a day of judgment, but on the other day, it's a day of crowning. And how else would we have a coronation party if it wasn't with food? And for Malka, my wife, like the simanim, the good signs that we make on the first night's meal, both nights' meal, where we take out all kinds of new fruits. We bless God for the new fruits. We bless God also for, like, we find witty ways to make these new signs. For example, we eat mushrooms. And as Shmuel Goldman once told me, may we have mushroom, in the new year. And you see that he's
been
doing
blessed. That one this year.
Huh?
I'm doing that one this year.
That's right. And there's other ones, like having some pizza and saying that our enemies should lead potzets. And other things that
I like drinking beer and then calling for the rebuilding of the Ir HaBirah.
Ir HaBirah, very good. That's a good one. Bira, that's right. And there's many more. I even told Malka this year, I said, let's have cinnamon so that we should have good simanim. Okay?
Yeah,
I came up with that one. Yeah, I came up with that one this year. So that's really a fun time, and there's nothing like those. There's a pageantry around it. There's a pageantry. The pageantry is oftentimes with also the fruits that come forth from the land, especially the pomegranate that comes forth at this time. And that's the pomegranate that also represents that the Jewish people are full of commandments. We're proud of having those 613 commandments. We're proud we're thankful for having that yoke and that responsibility, and that's symbolized by that. And so there's this joyous pageantry around the new year that's coming. And so it's a big hodgepodge in some ways. It's like a day of judgment, a day of cutting, a day of seeing the other, but also a day of and that's the best part of Rosh Hashanah, usually cool air outside. You thank God for the whole kit and caboodle. And this year we're going to thank him also for being stuck on the inside and being invited to a new relationship.
That's right. Crowning God King, no matter where we are. That's kind of what it comes down to, because God is king. God is king everywhere or nowhere on some level. Even though we as a people have struggled in our history to embody God's kingship in our national context, like we have the potential to do now, right? But we've learned is that as long as you're holding God's kingdom within, so to speak, that you have the ability to express it without.
And your show, The Jewish Story, which is also found at jewishstory.co, and you also have a new website, which is ravmike.com.
ravmike.com,
just that simple.
Yep.
And you have a series right now that you kind of from your classes at parties, which is Heralds of Zion, and you've laid out so many rationales, various thinkers apostrophe rationale for a rebuilding of the Jewish state. If the exile is unnatural. By the way, that's the one tiny one that I disagree with. That's actually I have come to a different conclusion about the exile, is that it is a natural modality. That's the one, and you mentioned in the name of the Maharal, somebody who I
They take
fear
up in Maharal. Yeah.
right. And like I would just say to him, I see what you're saying. Like me say we're more natural in the land of Israel, but the state of exile has a certain element of actually it's part of what we do. Let's just put it that way. It's just part of what we do, and there's a reason why we do it, and therefore it is a kind of natural state. But then there's so many rationales for being re-embodied in the land of Israel, and I find myself listening to your show and hearing different thinkers and thinking that's true, and that's true, and that's true. Yes, it's national defense, and there's a problem-solving element of getting us out of a place where we're being murdered. Yes, and we have to have our own culture and our own thing happening because that's the birth of nations, and nations exist better on their land. Yes, and then at the same time we got to build a temple and relive that biblical dream. Yep, so like and when I listen to your show on this topic, I'm always struck by the enormity of the time that we're living in, the enormity of it. And the countermand to that enormity is the cynicism that I hear. It's like to me, it's like we do not even, it is almost unpronounceable. When I say the word enormity, I feel like it's a small word to explain the enormity of what's happening here. And yet at the same time, I find that I sense that the media, etc., there's such a simplicity, superficiality, and a cynicism that is so not commensurate with the enormity of the moment, and that's something that I feel frustration with.
On that note, I was looking at the way in which the New York Times covered the Abraham Accords, and it was just so obvious. It was so obvious that they can't ignore it because it's actually significant news, and they're aware that it's a big shift. But if you looked, I didn't even click on the articles. If you look, they have like they're signing this accords, and then President Trump. They don't even call it President. They call him Trump, right? Says peace is breaking out, but analysts are skeptical. But it has to always be. But is it really such a big deal? Like literally, it's like we must deflate. We must deflate. And part of that is obviously their sort of relentless war on the president. But the deeper element is what you're saying, which is that the enormity of these events does two things. It calls into question all the structures which preceded it. And never forget, and the media in particular has a deep, deep investment. I'm talking literal investment, and also cultural, emotional investment in what preceded, right? And whereas you and I know that for the real revelation of God's intent, a lot of the world as we know it is going to have to go. It doesn't have to be catastrophic, God forbid, but it's going to have to go, right? It may have gotten us this far, but it's not where we need to be. So that's one side. They're defending their interests. The other side is that the enormity of these events demand something of us. They demand something of us, and people don't want to act. People don't want to act, right? To me, that was what caused me to make Aliyah. When I really kind of began to be religious and learn Torah and then learn about history and see what was going on, to me, it was like obvious. It's like, oh, I guess I got to go. I guess I got to go. And I'm not saying that to make people feel guilty or I'm not going there. I'm just simply saying is that the enormity of the events demands something. Otherwise, you're going to be forced to dilute them. Because the reality is there's a truth in it. And, the truth always demands a reaction. Hiding is also a reaction.
Right.
But truth demands a reaction. And if you choose to hide and undermine that truth, that is also, a way to react, although not one that I would encourage.
Okay, Rav Mike, let's just read two comments here. Here's my friend Jonathan Feldstein, who is an avid lover of a good drink, and he writes, shot of tequila with salt and lime so that the warmth of the good feeling of the tequila overcomes the sour taste of the salt and tardiness of the lime.
Yes, and then we'll say that the l'chaim will be whatever doesn't kill you, whatever doesn't tequila makes you stronger.
That's right. And I do love a good tequila. And Jonathan, we've talked for a long time about you inviting me over to have that tequila with you, and I'd love to pop by and have some. And a great tequila, will do great. Tequila for me is like the the people who don't have vodka in the freezer, so you can have tequila because it doesn't need the freezer. But I think within the words of Jonathan here are more deep. There's a bigger depth here than just tequila. I think there's tartness out there in the world. There's things that need to be overcome, but there's something so beautiful and profound right now. I think that's what we're talking about. Like overcome the cynicism of that bitterness and see the beauty of this time. And Robert writes. He writes like this. This is an interesting thing Robert writes. He writes Tru'ah, which I think he means the blowing of the shofar.
Yeah, Yom Tru'ah.
Yom Tru'ah, which is another name of Rosh HaShana. He writes, Tru'ah is an ancient and long-forgotten celebration, which Israel was charged to observe forever. In the last days, the children will return to the old ways, and so we have. Tru'ah is about shouting a joyful warning, as we say, Gilu B'Ra'ada, right? Joyful because for me it is a celebration. I look forward to sharing it. Yet a warning for those who are missing the boat, the ark, and a plea not to wait until it is too late. Sharing is caring. Much love and light to you all on this life-sustaining and important day.
Amen. Beautiful.
Yeah, some great folks out there that are connected to us. Rav Mike, I want people to be even more connected to you, which is easy enough if they check out jewishstory.co and your new website, which is ravmike.com. Easy enough.
Right.
And I want folks to also get a chance to really connect this year with the stuff that makes you connected to the land of Israel. One of the easy ones is Tchelet. If you go to tchelet.com, you get your own Tchelet. You're a true blue Jew. There it is. There it is. Woo. What a feeling. I'm wearing blue and white. There it is. It makes a humongous difference. It's your tassels. It's your graduation tassels, and they could be with blue. So if you write in coupon code Yishai, you get, I think, 5% off, but we're always working to make that more. But whatever, 5% is money. But that's right. It's so you're getting a coupon to do an ancient biblical commandment. That's awesome. The folks at Hebron Fund are absolutely key if you believe that it's important to protect the forefathers and mothers who are buried in Hebron and to beautify that site. In fact, Rav Mike, right after this call, if I can have another 5 minutes with you, 4 minutes, to talk to you about something related to how we promote the forefathers and mothers, something that you and I talked about in the past, but have to re-talk about again. And also, how about going to download your application for Aliyah at nbn.org.il, Nefesh B'Nefesh, an amazing organization, which is gonna after the Corona period, some predictions say are going to get their money's worth, because there's a lot of people who are interested in coming to the land of.
Oh, looks like we lost Yishai. I think I'm gonna have to stall for all the folks out there that are still watching so he figures out how he can get back. But I think that absent the show host, probably the best thing I can do is just wish everyone a beautiful, sweet, happy New Year, and keep plugging until I'm getting it to the ready sign. Nope, it was close, but we didn't make it. So what I'm going to do? Oh, hang on, there he is.
Were you stalling for me?
You will never know what I said. Well, I mean, this is being recorded, so
I could listen to it on replay. But I pressed a button there. I guess I was looking for the other sponsor for the show, which is IsraelWines.org. IsraelWines.com. I couldn't find the banner, and I must have pressed the button. So get your own Israeli wine through IsraelWines.org. No, .com. Excuse me. Israel. Where is that? Israel Wines.
Yeah, I'll Google it for you, man.
Here it is. IsraelWines.com. Coupon code Yishai. And get 10% off there. And so you can have wine. Maybe you can get it for Sukkot if you order now. And finally, I urge you to help me build Israel together by bringing amazing people like Rev Mike Feuer and other people together at YishaiFleischer.com. And I want to wish you, Rev Mike, a wonderful Shana Tova. Thank you so much for another great year of helping me and other people through your many good works, including this show, but certainly not limited to it. And I want to just bless you with a great year of Hatzlacha in health, in welfare, in child rearing, and in helping so many more people envision the redemption that is so deep and so true, and you are really flushing it out for so many people, and that making it real in the mind makes it real in reality. I really believe that.
Amen. Well, I want to wish you right back with a sweet and healthy year, a productive year, a year where all the ideas inside you take form outside of you, where that connection between mind, heart, and hand is fluid and smooth and powerful, and that you should keep broadcasting and touching all the people out there in the world that I know really look to you as a light and inspiration.
All right. Thank you very much, Rav Mike. Shana Tova, and we'll see you hopefully in the year 5781.
That's right. We'll get you guys on the other side.
I came up with the acronym for me. I was working on it. Tieh Shnat P Elef.
Ooh, I like it.
That's my. It should be a year of 1,000-fold. Tieh Shnat P Elef. That's what. That was my.
Let's share that with the kids.
Okay, Rav Mike. God bless you. Thank you very much, and Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
All right, folks. You are listening to the Yishai Fleisher Show and watching it as well. Let's go back to our screen share here of that beautiful medley that we'll close out the show with just a few more minutes of this very beautiful medley from the internet. Just so you know what it's called Yamim Noraim Medley with Micha Gamerman. I think this guy's done a great job to give us a feeling of a Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Varenu, Ki En Banu Masi. Aseh Imanu, Tzedakah v'chesed.
All right, we're not going to play that ad, so I'm just going to say thanks again, everybody. God bless you. Shana Tova. Simon says, wishing you both a beautiful Shana Tova, right back at you and all of you folks out there. Thank you so much for being part of it. Lots of love and lots of blessings from the land of blessings. Shana Tova.